Kristin Tatar is absolutely dominating the FPO field on the Pro Tour. And from watching her most recent win at World, there are a few things that separate her from the rest of the field that a lot of us can really learn from. Now, I'm not just talking about just get a better forehand, get a better backhand like her, and then just putt like her. No, these are things that all of us can really just implement into our game that will really help us become a better disc golfer just really quickly. So we're gonna be breaking down a few different holes from this past 2023 PDGA Pro World Championships to kind of look at 3 things that she does specifically that separates her from a lot of her competitors. Starting with the first point is to throw understable discs, specifically like more in the woods. So here, this is hole 3 at Brewster Ridge. This is the first round of the World Championships. This is 285 feet uphill. There's woods to the right, trees to the left. You kind of need to finish straight or like slightly left from the tee. So here, Kristin throws a fairway driver, her St. Pro, but it's pretty flippy. Like she throws in a hyzer, pops up, turns over to the right, and then slowly fades back left to pretty much park the hole. And she did that both rounds here at Brewster Ridge. What throwing the understable disc does is it makes it more effortless to get the distance on the hole, but not only that, but it's more accurate. So like what some of the other women do, like Paige Shue, for example, she likes to throw flex shots, and she tries to throw a flex shot here. But what happens, you can see, is she misses right. She either grips locks it or she throws it on too much angle on the flex to get the distance. So she kicks to the right, no birdie opportunity. And if you look at Owen, she tries to do the same thing. She tries to flex shot it, and then she leaves it a little early or doesn't put enough angle, and she kind of throws it a little nose up, and it goes left straight into the tree. Now, the reason that throwing understable discs are more accurate is, for example, with the flex shots, you're trying to throw on an Anheuser angle, and right out of the hand on that Anheuser angle, it immediately turns right. So you have to hit the angle right and hit it at the right spot to be able to have that perfect flex shot, for example. So Paige Shue, she missed her angle slightly, and because of that, it went too far right immediately, right out of the hand, and she might have grip locked it even, I don't know. On the other side, Owen Scoggins, she didn't put enough Anheuser on it and actually threw it a little bit nose up, and because of that, it didn't turn, and she might have even left it a little early, and it went straight into that tree on the left. If you miss your angle slightly on those flex shots, it's immediately missing off your target. But the hyzer flips, for example, when you throw understable stuff on a hyzer, you put it at this angle so that it pops up, flies straight, and turns over like that. But if you miss your angle, so if you miss it a little bit, not enough hyzer, it'll still fly straight until it turns up to flat, and then it'll start turning over. Or if you put too much hyzer on it, it still flies straight until it pops up to go to flat and then turn over. So no matter if you miss your angle, it still flies straight to hit your initial gap that you're trying to hit. As long as you release it at the right spot, you can miss your angle slightly and you're still going to hit that immediate gap off of the tee. And so that's what Kristin does, and it works really, really well. And she uses that St. Pro a lot on this round, and it's not like that St. Pro is not stable. Like normally St. Pros are pretty stable, like out of the box, they're pretty straight, and like they turn very little, if any, and then they fade. This one I think is really old and beat up, because if you look on the next hole, she's throwing the same disc, the same St. Pro. This time, like she throws it slight hyzer even, and it just completely flips over. So you can see like this is not an overstable disc at all. It is very understable. It is very old, so it's not going to be like a St. Pro out of the box. So that's kind of why it's not like totally accurate saying, yeah, she's throwing a St. Pro here. It's a St. Pro, but it's not really a St. Pro. So you want to find discs that will do that for you and have that understable flight. Like for me, this Fission Crave is so nice. In a lot of the woods courses here in Kansas City, like this is the disc I go to, either this one or my other Fission Crave, which is this red shell die one. I love this one. This one's just a little bit more stable, but they're both pretty understable. These are both very workable, and if you learn to manipulate and use workable understable discs, you will score a lot better on the courses that you play, especially when playing in the woods. It's not only that she uses an understable disc here. This brings up my second point of Kristin chooses like the right disc for the fairway flight rather than the length of the hole. Now, let me explain. So like with this hole, for example, it's uphill. It's kind of far for the ladies. So a lot of them are actually throwing distance drivers. Well, Kristin throws a fairway driver, an understable fairway driver at that. And it is not because she throws significantly farther than these women. Like, I think she throws farther than Owen and Paige, but I don't think she throws farther than Missy. Missy Gannon can throw pretty dang far. And Missy on this same hole, she throws a thrasher, which is pretty understable too. Like you can see right out of her hand, the flight is similar to that St. Pro, but it just hooks a lot more and skips. So because of that, she hit her line, but the disc flared out to give a much farther putt. Like Kristin parks it, and she parks it the next time they go to Brewster Ridge. This one, Kristin does not park it. Like it is a pretty far putt. Now, credit to her, she absolutely nailed the putt and she got the birdie. But if she chose a slower disc, the reason you throw slower discs is because they're a little bit more accurate and they finish straighter. So even if you have a more stable disc like this FD1, this one finishes straighter relative to other distance drivers that are similar stability than this. So it doesn't matter how flippy the disc is. So like this Grace, for example, is similar stability to this Crave, but this Crave, when it turns over, it'll give me a straighter finish than this Grace. Most distance drivers will give you a stronger finish at the end, even if it's understable. So that Thrasher had the same flight as Kristin's St. Pro, but it hooked up, skipped, finished left, and when Kristin's, because she threw a fairway driver, finished straight, and she almost overthrew the basket. Well, she did overthrow the basket a little bit, but she is like perfectly in line with the basket the whole time. Even though it might have taken her a little bit more effort, she still chose to throw a fairway driver up that hill to have that straighter finish at the end. And then it also, you can see the same thing happened here on the final round. This is hole 1 of the final round. And honestly, this is probably one of my favorite holes for FPO here, because off the tee, you can see there's like OB to the right over here. So you don't want to go right. And then there's OB to the left. It really makes you have to make a choice on how much of this fairway you want to bite off. I love this hole, especially for FPO. Kristin here, like you have to get pretty far up this fairway, but what does she do? She pulls out her Explorer, a fairway driver, and she rips on it, and it's nice and stable. I think she misses her line just a touch, but she's in the fairway. Boom. It's right there. What do the other players do? So Missy here, she goes with her trusty Thrasher again, which is a great disc, don't get me wrong, but she throws a distance driver, and look what happens. She throws similar flight to the Explorer, but look, the tree completely saved her. It was going way OB to the left. Like if that tree wasn't there, she was going OB. And then you've got Likey. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be completely butchering it though, so I apologize. But she throws another distance driver, and she tries to flex it, but she puts it a little bit too high, and what does it do? It's a distance driver. It likes to finish, and it goes OB. So Kristin's shot here is not a whole lot different than Missy's and Likey's. Like she still misses a little bit left, in my opinion. She could have thrown it a little bit more right. Like she might have put a little bit too much hyzer on her shot, but because it's a fairway driver, it doesn't have the finish of the distance drivers, and because of that, it saved her. Like if she threw a distance driver on that same line, I guarantee you that is OB, because she's only like maybe 10 feet from the out of bounds down the hill. So if she threw a distance driver, that would have been OB. Because she's playing for the flight that you need on the fairway rather than the distance of the hole, she's like, I have 2 shots to get 565 feet. I can get there in 565 feet, so I'm going to throw a fairway driver and maybe not get as much distance, but I'm going to guarantee more so that I'm going to be in the fairway. And that's what she does here. And that actually brings us into the third point. But before that, this footage was kindly provided by the Disc Golf Network and Disc Golf Pro Tour. All this footage has been pulled from the Disc Golf Network. Like, this is Jomez footage, but if you see, this is all on the Disc Golf Network now with no ads. That includes the YouTube ads and the ad reads that are usually on the YouTube version on Jomez. So nothing changes on YouTube, but for example, if you missed the opening rounds of Maple Hill, and you can go watch Jomez, get it ad-free now on Disc Golf Network. If you don't have Disc Golf Network yet, there's a link in the description, and that's an affiliate link. So if you use that link to sign up, I get a kickback and it supports the channel. So thank you. To the third point that I got from Kristin's play this weekend, and that is to eliminate your misses. That is like one of the biggest rules in disc golf, is the best players on tour are the ones who are completely consistent and play the percentage game. What's the higher percentage shot on each hole? Or what's the safest play, or what's the way to eliminate the misses? So looking back at this first hole, for example, again, she throws the Explorer, and so this is why, I'm going to stop it right here. This is why the Explorer is staple in everyone's lineup. This is their T-Bird mold. The reason the Explorer here is a great option is there's OB on the right, there's OB on the left, but if you were to choose one and say, okay, I have to go OB, where do I want to go? You want to go OB left. Because if you go OB over here, you have your lies over here, the basket's over here, and you can have an open look to possibly still get up and down for your par. Now, if you go right over here where the crowds are, your lie is over here, and you have to get around to the basket over there. There's getting up and down, a miracle. That's probably bogey at best if you go OB to the right. So she throws an Explorer, which is slightly overstable, which you can rip on and it's not going to turn over. And she even puts a slight hyzer on it because she's like, I really don't want to go right. So she puts a slight hyzer on a disc that's not going to go right already, and it goes straight, and she flirts with the OB line to the left here, but she would rather OB left than OB right, but also choosing the Explorer helps her to eliminate the miss to the left as much as possible, because that Explorer will fade a little more forward and not as much as, say, a distance driver like we talked about before. Going back to the second round of the tournament, this is at Fox Run Meadows. This is hole 5. This is 455 feet. This is really just at the very edge, if not a little bit out of most FPO players' range, or like even the top players. This is a little bit out of their range, but so this mainly takes 2 shots to get to for a lot of them, and this lead card, all of them take 2 shots. It's this green that makes it difficult for that second shot, because you've got this slope away from the green here. You can have a lot of rollaways, or you can go out of bounds to the left to the water over here. You can see a lot of these players, they go with a backhand. So here's Valerie. She goes with the backhand, and what happens is she puts a little bit too high, kind of juices it a little bit, skips, goes left, out of bounds in the water. Then you've got Missy. She goes backhand as well, but she saw Valerie's mistake and kind of just adjusted accordingly, and she throws it short and into the ground. But if you look at Kristin, she has a wide open shot, and what does she do? She throws a forehand, and if you look at it, she throws a very soft forehand almost into the ground, and it just settles up right next to the basket. It's incredible upshot. Now, what makes this eliminating the misses and such a great approach is, if you look at the green, it's sloping downwards again, and with the water to the left. If you throw a backhand here, so if you throw a backhand, what are the misses? So you can either throw it straight into the hill, but when you throw it straight into the hill is shaped like this. Your disc is coming in like this. Very easy to like get a kick and roll somewhere, or go down the hill, or even skip a little bit if you hit the perfect angle on that grass. That's one miss. You can also juice it way past and go OB long, but you can also put it a little too high. And if you put it too high, that can also, exactly what happened to Valerie, is she put it too high and it skipped into the water and went OB. Now with forehand, if you have that too high of a shot on accident, then the fade, it wants to fade right, and it wants to fade away from the water. So even if you have that miss, the disc naturally wants to go and fight against and away from the out of bounds water. So it takes away that miss. But also you can see that she threw a pretty overstable disc. She threw it on a slight ante, but it's pretty overstable and it faded out perfectly. The way you eliminate as much ground play as possible is a lot of people think you want to spike it in, and that could work, yes, if you spike it in and go perpendicular to wherever the ground is. The absolute best way to eliminate ground play is to match the surface that you're landing on. So if it's flat, you want to get the disc to land flat, because it's not going to skip, it's just going to dig pretty much and catch the most surface area and just stop. So what Kristin does here, she throws something really overstable because the hill is slanted slightly away from her. So she forehands it so that it fades, and when it hits the ground, it's at that exact same angle, which, like, she nails it on that angle. Like, look, matches the angle perfectly of the hill. What a lot of players do is they have like an open approach shot like that, and they're thinking like, okay, I'm gonna go with what I'm most comfortable with, which is majority of the time backhand. So they're gonna be like, my backhand is my better shot, I'm gonna throw up a backhand. And they don't think about the fact that with forehand, in this example, the fade takes you away from the water. So if you miss your shot, the disc has more likelihood to fade out before it hits the water. Also with the forehand, that's like almost the only way to match the grade of that landing zone that she's aiming for. And even Kat, she does the same thing. I don't think she has the best of forehand approaches, at least, because that was pretty wobbly. But even she knew, okay, I'm better at backhand, but with the grade of this hill, I need to throw forehand and have it fade away from the water. So you want to eliminate your misses as much as possible. And if you implement these 3 things as best you can, you will become a better disc golfer. It's not just throw farther. That's not an easy fix. These are pretty easy fixes that we can implement into our game to make us better disc golfers. But let me know in the comments if there's anything else that I may have missed, or just additional tips on how to improve your game. But these are just the things I observed from watching Kristin win her 2nd world title, which she's going to be winning many more world titles, I'm sure of it. And she's going to be elevating the entire FPO field while she's at it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.